Hey YouTubers, Mike Martin's here, Mike Martin's channel. It is I, Mike in the Night, just doing a quick discussion chat. I want to know what you guys think. This incredible amount of money laundering happening in Vancouver, it's all over the news. You go into anywhere in Google and type in money laundering Vancouver, there is hundreds if not thousands of articles up in the last 3 days. And the funny thing is, this has been happening for the last 20 years already, and they're finally cracking down on it. You know what I'm saying? This actually helps stimulate the country's economy. That's why a lot of politicians turned a blind eye to it. You know what I'm saying? Bringing outside money into a country and then investing it in that country always grows the country potentially and grows its numbers potentially, but at what cost? To the Canadian proper or the Australian proper or whoever's living in those countries are the ones that actually have to suffer with these problems, right? Walking Journey's in the house right now with saying thank you, Mike in the Night. Yeah, I'll do a quick live stream here for you guys. And I'm going to kick it off with this video here. This is a model, according to this, of what is happening.
Home to 100 million people, and known to investigators as the world's factory. Here, Chinese transnational crime groups use factories to create chemicals, narcotics, counterfeit goods, and products for illegal export. All of this facilitated by the casinos, VIP gamblers, and organized crime junket lending operators who lend money to VIP gamblers in Macau in the West. And in Hong Kong in the East, by banks, financial firms, and law firms that provide services to global criminals. The factories churn out methamphetamine and the chemical precursors for fentanyl. They are then transported around the world by ship or plane via criminally controlled international shipping routes. The drugs and chemicals go to the West Coast drug dealing networks with connections in Vancouver and Calgary. The money from drug dealing is laundered in the casinos first, where the VIP gamblers from China are gambling. Then, from the casinos, cash and checks go into underground banks in Vancouver, which send the money back to banks in Hong Kong and Guangdong, China. Hong Kong law offices transfer the cash to offshore shell companies in Panama, the British Virgin Islands, or the Cayman Islands, which can then get routed back to underground banks and law firms in Vancouver. And that laundered money is used to buy luxury real estate there. The laundered money that remains in China goes back into criminal-controlled Guangdong factories to make more chemicals and counterfeit goods to ship to Vancouver and elsewhere around the world, including Australia. And the cycle continues.
I like how they had the part at the end, including Australia. Yeah, Australia, you're in this mix too.
International
here we go.
organized crime. Thousands overdosing on our streets. People unable to afford a home in this province. That's been the payout for British Columbians as criminals were allowed to launder bags of dirty cash through our casinos.
There was the mistaken belief that this activity amounts to a victimless crime. But that is unfortunately a convenient lie.
The damning conclusion comes from the much anticipated report from former Deputy RCMP Commissioner Peter German.
The combined effect of years of denial, alternate hypotheses, and acrimony between entities made for a perfect storm.
This video shows how BC became an international hub for money laundering. At least $100 million in suspicious cash cleaned through large casinos as far back as 2011. The epicenter of the activity, the River Rock Casino in Richmond. Stacks of drug money was exchanged for casino chips. Some of that was lost gambling, most of it cashed out clean, and then used to buy property in our hot real estate market.
Nobody said no to taking this money, and that is inexcusable.
The Attorney General blames the previous government, and despite knowing this report was coming, the BC Liberals did not put up Rich Coleman, then minister responsible for BC gaming.
He's in Victoria.
Instead, an MLA who wasn't even a part of the government at the time.
I was here today downtown, and as a member of this opposition, I said I would take those questions.
Joe Hall insists work had been done behind the scenes, but how did dirty money still make its way in?
Well, could we have done more? Every government will say we could have done more.
German called the relationship between the BC Lottery Corporation and the under-resourced gaming policy and enforcement branch at best strained and at worst broken.
We have to rely on other parties to do that work, and it appears that that's one of the gaps that occurred.
German's 48 recommendations include a new independent regulator.
Okay, guys, that's what I wanted to show you there. This is a big problem that's happening here. Criminal syndicates that control chemical factories in China, booming Guangdong provinces, and shipping narcotics, including fentanyl, to Vancouver, washing the drug sales in British Columbia's casinos and high-priced real estate, and transferring laundered funds back to Chinese factories to repeat the deadly cycle. That's why they're shadow flipping. That's why one guy sells his house to his friend for $4 million, then he sells it back for $4 million, and then sells it back for $4,200,000, and then sells it back for $4,600,000, and then sells it back for $4,800,000. Then that money becomes clean in bank accounts because you're selling it back to the same people. And there's reports where it's been done 18 times between two people. They've sold back and forth the same property 18 times using shadow money or dirty money or laundered money to use that money in. And then once the house sale goes through in Canada, it gets deposited into a Canadian bank account. So this is what's happening. You know what I'm saying? Guys, don't forget to tune into the Walking Journey Anthony channel after I'm done here. He should be going live. So that's that. So this is a huge problem, guys. And then you know how long this has been happening? This has been happening for over 20 years. 20 years. This has been happening. And this is the newest one that came out today. This came out about an hour and a half ago.
And what it means, you have to look a little closer. Here's Sinjin Alexander with how money laundering actually works.
Shiny hot rods, luxury goods, and record sales. Just some of the glaring signs of the city's dirty secret.
Whenever you create a weak link, and that's what Vancouver became, you end up attracting organized crime.
And with it, millions, maybe billions in illegal cash. So how did this sleepy city by the sea become such a hub for crime? Money Laundering 101, Vancouver edition. When a crook makes money illegally, like selling drugs, it's called dirty money. To stop police and the government asking, where did you get all that money? The crook has to make it look legit, so he cleans or launders it.
You clean it by handing it off to someone else who doesn't have a criminal background.
A Vancouver crook might buy expensive jewels or fancy wheels and then sell them. So if questioned, I have a receipt. Others buy casino chips, pretend to gamble, and then cash them in.
So you take dirty money, you put it in a bank account, you buy a house. Now your asset is held in a house. You then sell that house.
Al Capone, commissar of vice and corruption, became a front-page figure and a millionaire.
The term money laundering goes back to Prohibition. Capone tried to make his loot look clean by operating a bunch of laundromats. In Vancouver,
sadly, law enforcement didn't keep up, regulations didn't keep up.
Crooks moved here from places like Hong Kong and Macau, attracted by the climate, the coast, and the lax legal system. The fact that our authorities didn't speak Chinese was a bonus.
They look at us as being naive and they take advantage of that.
We're far removed from Ottawa. We're far removed from the regulators. We're far removed from the oversight bodies.
To be clear, there's plenty of legit businesses in Vancouver, but money laundering is so rampant, no one's really sure the size of the dirty pile.
That's how big it is right now, guys. It's actually a lot bigger of a deal than people could imagine. You know what I'm saying? And it's getting out of control because it's destroyed so many lives. Never mind it's the drugs, the broken up families, the losses in everything. You know what I'm saying? It's how do you fix something like this? The thing is, you can't blame the Chinese for this, for doing it. You got to blame our lax system. You know what I'm saying? I mean, instead of the government auditing small businesses or going after small businesses, why'd you expense that on your GST? That's $8 you shouldn't have done. You're gonna have to pay fines. Well, start going after people that actually destroy lives. You know what I'm saying? Real estate investigation is next for author of BC Casino money laundering report. Again, more money laundering going on. It is BC casinos are laundromats for infusion of dirty money, report says. In the West Vancouver's nicest neighborhoods, nobody's home except dust bunnies and raccoons. Remember this article I read? Some of the best homes in the city are completely empty and with 5 feet tall weeds in front and dust bunnies. I read that article the other day. Look at those weeds everywhere in such a beautiful home, you know. And then Quebec-style inquiry on BC realty, money laundering, only way to get the truth, says lawyer. And then it's sad that the amount of lives that were damaged in something like this, it's horrendous. It's and you can't blame them for doing that, because there's always, like you said, if there's the one criminal element, there's another criminal element, and there's another criminal element. It doesn't matter. There's always going to be some sort of criminal element to take the place, to take its business. But why? I mean, international borders? I heard they stopped tens of millions and hundreds of millions of dollars of people bringing it in suitcases on airplanes. You know what I'm saying? It's like, you know. Swift Kick is asking, do you think they'll actually face any justice? Of course they won't. Of course they won't face any. If it was me, I'd be setting an example. It's because it's me. If it was me, oh God, I would be hung upside down in a cell. See how long I could live hanging upside down. You know what I'm saying? It's definitely because it, you know, if you know, it would have been shut down immediately 20 years ago if it was somebody in Canada gaining from it, because it, you know, like they said in the video, oh, you know, they think we don't speak the language and blah blah blah. Yeah. And then someone says it's horrible. Jasmine says yes. It's horrible. Our relaxed government did not catch these issues. They did, Jasmine. The RCMP has proof that 20 years ago, it's in an older article I found from the mid-90s, that the RCMP did have proof of this already happening. And they were asked to step back. You know what I'm saying? Foreclosure starts rise 43% of markets. Wow. The banks are probably hiding and holding on to millions of homes, creating an artificially high prices. That's correct. That's correct. That happened somewhere in Asia somewhere. I can't remember where it was, where the housing market was collapsing, but the government was buying or repossessing the homes and holding them on the market, type of thing. Loonbag leftists overbidding on homes with money they don't have, invading other states. You have even higher prices coming. That's right. A lot of people moving from the eastern United States, western United States, the western states. I showed you this on the map. We went over this from trends in the housing market, how people are moving from Washington State, Oregon State, and California are moving east. And you guys would never believe how many empty homes they have in those cities. You guys have no idea. But Vancouver is the fentanyl drop-off point for Canada, means that bring cash, and it means money laundering for city for decades. Yep, that's exactly what's been happening. And it's really sad, because this would have been shut down a long time ago if there was if it was an organized Canadian group that was doing this and actually kind of running the Canadian side. And those people running the Canadian side would have been shut down the first 3 months they were in business, and this problem wouldn't have not happened. It would have been shut down quick in a heartbeat. But it's really sad. They turned a blind eye. There's so many. Rob Shaw, money laundering report crucifies liberals for mismanagement. Now they're blaming other political parties. No, don't even bother with that. It's a bunch of garbage. Stop blaming each other and start fixing the problem and button down the hatches, if you want to say it that way. And so there's a lot of people commenting in the comment section. A lot of people commenting. And, you know, I've been talking about, you know, hold on, let me finish what I'm saying. What did I say? BC casinos are laundromats for infusion of dirty money, report says. Remember the 1930s? Al Capone launders money by actually opening a bunch of laundromats, and then claimed through his bookkeeper, claimed that he was actually making the money through the laundromats, which wasn't true. That's not money laundering. That's layering money. That's how you layer money, in which becomes money laundering. But that's layering money through a company. In return, it comes out clean. That's what it means. It's called layering money. That's why I got the Better Call Saul here at the bottom. Legal troubles, Better Call Saul. I'm moving from PR for Bitcoin. I'm going on down, so no benefit. Oh, Anon's in the house. Thank God he's here. So, just the amount of money laundering is just phenomenal. Anon, if you're just joining us, go back to the beginning and watch this, because you'd see what's been happening here in Vancouver. And I think it's happening in places like Australia and New Zealand and other places like the UK and... that's why shadow flipping is a huge problem. One guy sells the same house to the other guy 18 times back and forth. Every time that sale gets made, the money gets deposited cleanly into a Canadian bank account. Why? Here's the receipt. I sold my house. So, so someone says, Anon says, it's an unfair playing field. The proper has taxes garnished from incomes and high cost of living, yet the Chinese have dirty money to park. And, it's not just dirty money. There's a lot of working class and a lot of, not working class, but people in government levels that are buying up tons of real estate in Canada, US, and all those places. But the problem is you won't get any saber rattling from Chinese politicians. That's the thing. Because they have huge investments in these countries. So, on the proper side, or the clean side of the note, if you want to say it like this, they won't be coming to war with us because they have way too much invested in our countries with their own money. You know what I'm saying? I wish I could own a laundromat, says Walking Journey. And then Walking Journey says, I've heard there are many beautiful, attractive women in Puerto Rico. Yes, there is. I have been to San Juan, and I have witnessed it with my own eyes. So now we're getting into the whole laundromat business here. In the comments section, guys. I love it. Woo! Yeah, so, I mean, this is phenomenal what's happening here. And if there was only some sort of Canadian organization, organized criminals, that were... Imagine! Canadian organized criminals going to China and setting up a whole ring like this in China. Woo! I'd like to know in the comments below what would happen to a Canadian, slightly impolite organization makes its way to China to set up this kind of money laundering in China. What would happen to them? Because it's Canada, it's so, you know what I'm saying? Wow, laundromat conversation's going strong. I should do a whole show whether it's worth it or not owning a laundromat. So this is phenomenal what's happening here. What else do we have going on in the housing market here? Oh, money, drugs, real estate. Oh my God. Chinese criminals exploit weak links in global regulation. In one example, see, the triads deal with the state of North Korea. It's organized crime, guys. It's been around for the last, 1,000 years? 2,000? Organized crime has been around for so long. There's always somebody out there to take somebody's business when it comes to crime. So what is he? Whoa, lots of going on here. Someone's saying in the comments section, the regular worker making average wage can't compete with those crooks. That's very true. And the problem is when you're competing with the criminal entity, it's like me, okay, competing with Brad Pitt. Okay, wow, Brad Pitt has that suit. I'm gonna go buy that suit too. And $5,000 later, wow, look at that watch he's got. I gotta get that watch, Brad. Once a second, you have to compete with. You can't. You know what I'm saying? Then Walking Journey says, I do love Chinese food and Chinese women. Me too, Walking Journey. Me too. I'm with you on that. And someone says, if you eat Chinese food now, you'll be hungry in 3 hours. It is a myth. I don't know if that's a myth. I don't know why people say that. I guess, I don't know. But anyways, so what else is happening here? Let's talk to these videos. Let's get to the next video here.
Or history will repeat itself.
And BC cannot afford to double down. John Hua, Global News.
Organized crime, and I've tried to explain it in the report, is not what you might have read in your criminology textbooks 10, 15, 20 years ago. These days, it is very much a moving target. You have loose alliances between organized crime organizations. We've seen that in the Lower Mainland right at the street level, but you certainly see that internationally. And where it becomes very complicated is when organized crime groups actually are involved in both legal and illegal enterprises at the same time. So, definitely there's an Asian organized crime component. I've talked about that in the report, but it's not exclusively that. And picking up on what the minister said, at the end of the day, if we're talking about drug trafficking proceeds being laundered, who is buying the drugs, right? So it's actually people in this province that are buying the drugs, or in whatever other province, state, or country where the money comes from. So it's easy to point the finger elsewhere, abroad, and so forth, but we also have to realize that drug sales occur, illegal drug sales, right here, and that money gets laundered right here.
So guys, once again, that's called layering money. So when you layer money, you're working with obviously dirty money, but cleaning it through merchandise, right? Instead of opening a business front, remember back 20 years ago, somebody would open a market and you'd walk by and say, how the hell is that guy in business and no one's ever in there and he's been here for 10 years. That's how you slowly layer money into a company and kind of slowly export, and then you pay your taxes on it. They're trying to avoid taxes. These guys are trying to avoid everything. If there's any law that could be broken within, back in the day when you layered money through a company and laundered it properly, you pay taxes on it. You actually, contributed quite a bit to society. You know what I'm saying? But now they want to cut all that out. You know what I'm saying? So back to the video, at the beginning of the video, guys, if you're just tuning in, please go into the video and watch it from the beginning because it's very good. So I'm just on tonight for a couple of minutes. I kind of wanted to put this video out there just to discuss how people are still buying homes in Vancouver, and USA would have to RICO Act them gangs. Yeah, we need some sort of foreign policing to come in and fix this problem because obviously our governments can't do it, and or our policing is having a tough time getting a grip on what's actually happening. I mean, but like I said, like he said in the report, history will repeat itself, and this is a problem. So there's always someone out there to, okay, let me explain to you guys, and I've said this story to you guys maybe 70 times on my channel, maybe 85 times on my channel. Up until 80 years ago, people would protect their borders with their lives. Like, for example, any bordering country that you see today that existed about 100 years ago and older, people protected their countries with their lives. Brody saying, Mike, do you have any input on the yield curve getting scary at the moment? Yes, I reported on that a few months ago, and then I reported on it 2 weeks ago. And the last time the yield curve, when the last time this happened was in 2006-ish, 2007 in the United States, and that's when the yield curve inverted and switched, and that's when the huge American crash happened, right? So let's see what's going on here. It's probably I think I already read this one the other day. It's in the news right here. It's not this one. As yield curve threatens to invert, market watchers sit up and pay attention. Oh yeah. The red figurine sits atop of the trader's desk in Frankfurt Stock Exchange last year. A short-term interest rates rise and long-term ones stay low. Many economists are starting to worry about the inverted yield curves and their knack for predicting recessions. It may not have escalated to the level of water cooler talk. Yeah, because a lot of people are in the blind, right? But an obscure and obtuse sounding economic indicator is a hot topic for conversation among the investment communities of late. So I've been talking about this for the last 3 months, 2 months, 3 months, I don't know, it's sometime in my thing. The yield curve on the government debt, the gap between how much long-term bonds pay out versus short-term ones, it is the lowest level in more than a decade, and opinion is somewhat divided on how bad this a sign for the economy. Under normal circumstances, the yield on a long-term bonds should be much higher than the yield on short-term ones, properly rewarded investors of the risk of waiting longer to get paid, particularly since inflation can eat away at the value over time. So you basically put $1,000 away for 10 years, hopefully you'll get $2,000 back in 10 years. But now, in 10 years, what the hell is $2,000 going to be worth with inflation at cost of... So that's what's happening. That's why I keep telling everyone to invest in gold and silver. Physical gold and silver, intrinsic value, actual you could hold. I should bring some and show you guys some of my collection of 10-ounce bars. At various times over the past decade, the gap between long-term and short-term yields has been high, as 4 percentage points, as much as 400 basis points, to use Bay Street parlance. But you know what? 4 points. Okay, you put in $1 million, and then you get $1,200,000, $1,200,000 back. Sorry, $1,400,000 back. Let's say 10 years from now, or some crap like that. Okay, the thing is, when you look at the cost of inflation and the cost, so look at the price of a house in Vancouver and how much it went up in 2 years. That $200,000 or $400,000 you made off that $1 million in 10 years still won't get you a house in Vancouver. So you see where I'm going here? Steve the plumber is saying organized real estate is freaking out. So are many other people. Power of sales are now hitting the market in the GTA, York regions. Yeah, I read an article about that yesterday and the day before yesterday. And you know, did you guys see that article that was out that 1 in 10 homes in Vancouver and in Toronto are owned by foreign entities? And then Steve the plumber says I'll have listings in a few days. And then Brody says it's never bad to hold on to long-term. I'm right. And so S is saying ongoing now how USA is pulling $30 billion a month from markets, which is big. 1,000+ down days. Yep. That's what's going to be happening, because you stimulate the market by putting money into it, but it doesn't help it in the long term. Bad sign. That's because so-called inverted yield curve is having troubling knack for showing up right before the economy is about to go pear-shaped. The phenomena has happened before in every recession dating back to the Second World War. The most recent case in the U.S. went into recession without first seeing the yield curve invert was 1990, but even then it came close. So there it is here. There's a spread. Oh. And the shaded areas, guys, are here. U.S. economy going into recession shortly after. So there's the shaded areas here, showing you that right there. So this is not good. So currently the gap between the 2-year U.S. bond and the 10-year bond is just 32 basis points, and that's the thinnest it's been since 2007. That stinks. That stinks. That's horrible. You might as well put your money in for a year and get the same return back on a 10-year. What's the point? So keep calm, carry on. So let's keep talking. Let's keep talking here. Mike Journey, Walking Journey says, Mike in the Night, The Economist. Mike in the Night. Guys, don't forget to join Walking Journey on his channel after I'm done here. He'll be going live. And then Brody says, it's... Oh, Bordy. I thought it was Brody. You know I can't read, dude, so come on. So it's Bordy. Haha. I gotta run. Need to sleep to pay my overpriced apartment. Love the show, Mike. Keep up the solid work. And then Steve the Plumber says, when the United States goes into recession, regardless if Canada is in a recession or not, Canada will not be able to handle the shock. Here's the deal. Here's the deal with the America going into recession. If America goes into a full-blown proper recession to do a proper reset, because it's raised rates so much in the last, I don't know, year since Donald Trump's been in power, because they raised rates so much and they're pulling out of the stock market, they're pulling out millions and billions out of the stock market slowly to kind of stabilize the stock market. If the U.S. goes into recession, it's got a little bit of a bumper, because a little bit of bumping power, because it did raise rates, so it kind of, everything got somewhat stimulated in a way where it's not so much of a big shock. Steve the Plumber says, when the United States... Oh, we read that. And then S said, I would be surprised if they did the fiat reset this long weekend. So, guys, please buy gold and silver if you're worried, because gold and silver protects you against inflation. It is a decent investment for super long term. So 10 years... Let's see what 10-year gold price is. See what the price of gold's been for the last 10 years. So, yeah. So for the last 10 years ago, you could have bought per troy ounce 440 pounds. So what is that, 600 Canadian? So 10 years ago, instead of putting it into one of those bond market, you could have bought gold in September 2008, or 10 years, give or take, right? So let's use pounds sterling, just so we're not confused here. So you would have bought at 440 pounds per ounce, and 10 years later, you would have sold at 963 pounds per ounce. So that easily would have doubled your money if you basically invested long-term into gold. So instead of putting $1 million into a bond market that's going to give you peanuts and doesn't even deflect the inflation the rise of inflation, might as well put it in gold 10 years ago. Okay. It's too late for Canada, says Steve the Plumber. Yes, Canada didn't raise interest rates at the right time. The United States raised interest rates. The United States pulled out of the stock market, like the Feds pulled out of the stock market to proper create a cushion or a bumper effect. If the United States does go into recession, it has that extra cushion, like I said earlier. So, okay, Richie Cunningham checking in. And is 50% of total wealth too much? Gold and silver? Yes, it is. Remember, Richie, gold and silver are only good to hedge against inflation. Okay? If you remember what happened in Zimbabwe, when the dollar, where a price of Coke at 9 in the morning went from 1 Zimbabwe dollar to $1 trillion by nighttime. Because the money went into hyperinflation mode, and it was a nightmare. You guys can look up the Zimbabwe hyperinflation nightmare. Look it up on YouTube. Watch a video on it. You wouldn't believe it. You know what I'm saying? Trillions of dollars. $1 trillion bills. Okay. Yeah. So, see, 10 years ago, you would have bought in gold for that much, and you would have sold for that and that much. So, how much do you want to put into your portfolio? 25%, 20% of my portfolio is gold, and 15% of my portfolio is silver. Silver has a better trading power when it comes to small trades. You want 1 ounce silver bars, 5 and 10 ounce silver bars. I'll show you guys what the 1 ounce silver bar looks like. So this is what it looks like. This is a 1 ounce silver bar. You could pick up one for, ounce of silver is going for about $18 Canadian. So you want to diversify your portfolio and not put everything into, you want to have at least 10% cash. Okay. You want to have at least 10% cash in your portfolio. So 10%. Try having US cash, I think would be better. Because if you're going to have that 10% cash anyway, you're not going to spend it. It's better to have it in U.S. funds, in my opinion. So Steve the plumber saying interest rates in Canada have remained too low for too long. Yeah, well, there's no buffer. There's no buffer for a recession. When a recession hits, there's no aggregate to kind of eat it up a bit. You know what I'm saying? Then S says, too late for Venezuela people. Got no gold or silver. And then Stan is saying, the major banks are crooked. What makes you think everything underneath isn't 10 times worse? Look at HSBC and Wells Fargo. Oh, guys, we know that. The banks with their lending schemes and all this crap and putting junk on the books, and the underwriters looking at deals and saying, oh yeah, let's approve this guy and take his house and his money away in 6 months because we know he won't be making his payments. You know what I'm saying? So it's hard to carry 10 times 100 ounce silver bars if you're trying to get out of Dodge. You know what? The thing is with that, just to be very fair with you, I would buy a little Fiat. I would buy a Fiat and I put the gold bars in the Fiat. I saw it in a movie once and it really worked. And so let's go here. So buying silver is a really good way to hedge against inflation. Let's look at the Zimbabwe. Hyperinflation. So this is it right here, guys. So this is Zimbabwe hyperinflation. So look at the, this is nuts. So back you could buy 1 to 1 or whatever, 1 to 10, and then it's like 1 to 10 to the power of you have to be a mathematician. 10 to the power of 27. I don't know what the hell that is, like trillions of dollars. Zimbabwe. Here's the $100 trillion in Zimbabwe. I remember reading up. I remember following this. This was really interesting time. Really scary. Really, really, really scary. Look at this trillionaire on the streets. Yeah. So here it is. So from 1998 to 2008, look at that. Holy smokes. Holy. Look at this guy. This guy can't even pay his rent with that. I guarantee he can't cover his rent with that money. It won't even cover it. So what did the people in Zimbabwe resort to? Digging gold. digging for gold. See, for that documentary, a lot of young people were digging for gold with the pickaxe. And see, does gold keep up in higher? So you guys have to understand, if the dollar drops like that and you're in possession of gold, it's no one could afford to buy it because it's priceless. It becomes priceless. Oates is here. He's saying, and then Anon saying it's hard to carry. Oh yeah, it's true. Really hot and humid into AC, working hard. And then Oates says, I just wanted to put my head in. I'm about to drive to Calgary, leaving at 3 a.m. Oh my God, what are you going to go do in Calgary, dude? And then Steve the Plumber said, yep, I've been working around the clock with many AC breakdown calls. And then S, can't buy a coffee with 100 million. No. I have a 10-hour drive. Oh, man. We'll stop in Merritt. I'll be there tomorrow morning. But, yeah, I wanted to kind of throw that up there, guys. Guys, there's a lot of ways to protect your investments. Steve the Plumber's has to head to bed. Yeah, it's like 2 o'clock in the morning. Go to sleep, dude. It is I, Mike of the Night, covering money laundering and investment ideas. Guys, just buy silver. 10% of your portfolio should be silver. Do not buy silver. Don't buy these. Don't get these. Silver certificates. Silver bonds. Hold on. Don't get these, ever. Don't ever, ever, ever get these stuff. And let me explain to you. So Oates might be moving to Calgary. I want to see the sense of life. I was just in Calgary like 2 weeks ago. I drove from there. Yeah, I'm going to Edmonton, Calgary, Banff. You know, if you want a nice place to move, go look at some of the cities that I covered in my on my show. That one, Cameron or Cameron, Alberta. Cameron, you'll see it on your way to Calgary. Cameron, Alberta is really nice. Yeah. And then Hug Jazz says, I came late. Will you upload this? Oh yeah, you just scroll this video back right now. Channel's on right now. Just scroll it back and watch it from the beginning. It'll be uploaded to the channel right after I log off. Do not buy these silver certificates, guys, ever. Let me explain to you here on this piece of paper that my son's been drawing on. Let's see that? Let me explain to you what's happening with this. This is the Mike Martin's graph here. Pay attention. You see that? Okay. You see the actual silver on the graph, how low it is? Do you see the paper beside it? We're not talking about tree paper. We're talking about those international silver company certificates. If you were to stack the amount of certificates there are in the world for people that supposedly hold silver, that's how big your stack of paper would be into coordinates, into correspondence with how much actual silver there is on the planet. So we got a troll in the comment section. Yeah, just ban them. Who cares? People want to troll us. That's fine. They could troll us. I hope one day they tie Facebook to YouTube. I really hope so. So we can start seeing everybody and what they're saying to people. So here it is here, people. Actual silver and paper certificates. So if you're going to go to the bank and say, I want to buy some silver, sure, we'll give you a silver bond paper. No, that's how much paper there is stacked. And that's how much silver there is in the world. There's not enough silver in the planet to cover this paper. And that's what I'm trying to say. On this planet, there's not nearly enough silver. And that's a problem. Because when these people want to cash in their paper for silver, physical silver, they're not going to have it available. Just like Deutsche Bank. Just like Deutsche Bank did the same thing. Now people want their gold back. They're bringing certificates in. German people are going to Deutsche Bank saying, I have my gold certificate. I want my gold. Guess what they're telling them? Get lost. Yes. Look it up. It's on file. It's articles. Read them. Anyways, guys, I've been here for, holy crap, for 45 minutes. I'm going to sleep. It's almost 11 o'clock here in Merritt, British Columbia. Thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate the feedback and the conversation we're having here. It's really, really important that you guys wake up to what's going on. I'm not a big deal when it comes to, breaking news or talking. It's just, I like to cover more discussion pieces so we could discuss what's happening. And, yeah. Let's do that, guys. Comment below. This is up. This video should be up and running. Just scroll it to the back at the beginning if you're just joining us, and we'll go from there. Guys, don't forget to join me, and we will. Don't forget, Walking Journey is going to be going live in about 10-15 minutes, and you can tune into his channel. I'll be doing that too. And guys, stay awake when it comes to your finances, because no one else will look after your money. Don't trust your bank. Don't trust your a banking advisor. Don't trust anybody. Do your own research, do your due diligence, and find out where to put your money to make it work for you. Thanks for watching, guys, and don't forget to hit the subscribe button.